cafe was buzzing with the usual mid-morning crowd. Sunlight poured through the large windows, falling on the polished wooden tables and the neatly stacked pastries behind the glass counter. The smell of fresh coffee filled the air, blending with the faint sweetness of baked bread. Among the patrons sat a man dressed in an expensive suit, his shoes shining and his watch catching the sunlight. He moved with confidence, the kind of confidence that drew eyes without effort. There was an air of superiority around him, an unspoken message that he believed the world should bend slightly to his presence. He scanned the room with a critical eye before settling on a young waitress attending one of the tables. She was brisk but careful in her movements, her uniform tidy, and her hair neatly tied back. There was a nervous energy about her, not out of fear, but more like the nervousness someone feels when every step they take could be noticed by someone whose judgment carries weight. She approached his table with a polite smile, holding a notepad ready to take his order. "Good morning, sir. What can I get for you today?" she asked, her voice steady, though there was a slight tremor that betrayed her anxiety. The man looked at her, his expression half amusement, half judgment. "Well, let's see if you can handle this," he said, almost as if speaking to himself. He ordered with a mix of specificity and trivial demands, testing her patience subtly, noting her reaction. He asked for a double espresso, extra hot, no sugar, and a sandwich cut in a particular way. When she repeated the order back, slightly hesitating on the wording, he smirked. "You seem new. Don't worry, I'll try to be gentle." She nodded, keeping her composure, and walked away to place the order. As she moved through the cafe, a few regular customers gave her encouraging smiles, sensing her quiet determination. The staff, familiar with the occasional arrogant patron, gave small nods of support. She returned quickly, carrying the espresso and sandwich carefully balanced on a tray. "Here you go, sir. 1 double espresso, extra hot, and your sandwich," she said, placing the items in front of him with practiced precision. He took a sip of the coffee, his eyes still on her, observing her every movement. "Not bad," he said with a half smile, more as a test than genuine praise. He leaned back in his chair, tapping his fingers lightly on the table. "You know, most people in your position would have messed this up. But I suppose not everyone is as clumsy as they appear." She kept her smile, but inside, a spark of annoyance flickered. It wasn't the first time she had dealt with people who thought their wealth gave them a license to belittle others. She had learned early that politeness and professionalism were her shields. One day her talent, whatever it was, would speak louder than words, but for now, she focused on remaining calm. She nodded lightly and said, "Thank you, sir. Enjoy your meal." He chuckled softly, leaning back in his chair. "You have a good attitude. That's something. Most people would have lost their cool by now. It's amusing to see someone maintain it, but I wonder how long it will last." She walked away, carrying her tray to the next table, but her mind wasn't on him. Instead, it wandered to the things she loved doing, the moments when she could be herself without masks. Life had taught her that people like him were tests, small storms that passed, leaving only patience and experience in their wake. She moved gracefully through the tables, balancing trays, taking orders, and smiling at the customers. Each interaction smooth and natural, hiding the nervous energy that had greeted the wealthy man. Meanwhile, he watched her from his seat, genuinely intrigued. He had encountered many people who catered to wealth, but there was something different about her. She didn't flinch, she didn't beg for approval, and she didn't overcompensate. She moved with a kind of quiet strength that he had not expected. He sipped his coffee again, thinking how unusual it was to find someone so unflustered by his remarks. The amusement he had expected to find in her discomfort was replaced by curiosity. After finishing his meal, he called her over again. "You know," he said, lowering his voice just enough for a private tone, "most people wouldn't have handled that as well as you did. You keep your composure in a way that is unusual. I almost underestimated you." She nodded politely, saying, "Thank you, sir. I appreciate that." He stood, leaving a generous tip, and glanced at her once more. "I'll be back tomorrow," he said casually, almost like a warning, but she didn't react visibly. The statement lingered in her mind, not because she was afraid, but because she sensed an opportunity. People like him often carried assumptions that were easy to challenge. As the cafe returned to its normal rhythm after his departure, she took a moment behind the counter to breathe. Her hands were steady, but her mind raced with small possibilities. She knew that her real skill, the thing that made her unique, wasn't known to anyone in the cafe yet. It was hidden, tucked away in the quiet moments when no one was watching. Some people discovered talent naturally. For others, it was forged in the background, shaped by patience and persistence. She glanced around the cafe, noticing the regulars who gave her nods and smiles of encouragement. One of the older staff members leaned against the counter, giving her a knowing look. He didn't speak, but the gesture said it all. Keep your head high. Moments like these passed quickly, but they left impressions that could last a lifetime. She felt a small thrill, a mixture of anticipation and calm, knowing that today was the beginning of something that could change her life. The wealthy man, meanwhile, drove away in his sleek car, his mind unusually occupied with thoughts of the waitress. He wasn't used to being challenged, even subtly, and he found her presence lingering in his thoughts more than he expected. It wasn't admiration in the usual sense. It was curiosity. How could someone so seemingly ordinary carry themselves with such quiet confidence? He realized he might have misjudged her, and that thought, unfamiliar and unsettling, stayed with him through the afternoon. Back in the cafe, she prepared for the next rush of customers, her movements smooth and deliberate. Each order, each interaction was performed with attention and care. She carried herself not only with professionalism but with a hidden pride, one that didn't need validation from anyone, not even from the man who had mocked her. She knew her moment would come, the moment when her hidden skill would be revealed, and when it did, no smirk or sarcastic comment could diminish it. The day moved forward, the cafe filling with laughter, conversation, and the occasional clatter of dishes. She remained a constant presence, navigating the busy space with poise. The wealthy man's brief visit had stirred something inside her, not frustration, but a quiet determination. She was aware of her abilities, of the skill she had honed in secret, and she felt a sense of readiness. Whatever judgment or mockery came her way in the future would be met not with anger or embarrassment, but with action. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, casting warm light across the cafe, she took a moment to glance out the window. Tomorrow promised another day, another opportunity, perhaps even another encounter with the man who had tried to belittle her. But she wasn't worried. She knew that when the time came, her hidden skill would speak louder than words. And for now, she smiled softly to herself, a quiet acknowledgement that she was prepared for whatever came next. Her mind filled with anticipation and her heart steady with confidence. The next morning, the cafe opened with its usual warmth and aroma of fresh coffee. Sunlight spilled through the windows again, catching the edges of the polished counters and the stacks of pastries, making everything look inviting. The young waitress arrived early, tying her hair back neatly and adjusting her uniform. She liked to arrive before the crowd, not because she feared the rush, but because the quiet moments allowed her to prepare herself for whatever the day might bring. Her co-workers greeted her with smiles, some noticing the slight tension in her face. It wasn't visible to the casual observer, but she carried herself with a certain alertness, as if she were ready for something to happen. She poured herself a small cup of coffee and took a moment to breathe, remembering the previous day's encounter. The wealthy man's mocking words still echoed faintly, not enough to upset her, but enough to spark a determination she didn't usually show. The morning passed with the usual flow of customers. Orders came in steadily, the hum of conversation filling the cafe. She moved from table to table, carrying trays of food and drinks with grace, smiling at the patrons, and responding to their small talk with warmth. She noticed, though, that her mind wandered often, thinking about the man who had left such a strange impression on her. She didn't dislike him, but there was something about his presence that challenged her in a way few people did. Around midday, the door chimed, and she glanced toward the entrance. Sure enough, the wealthy man had returned. He walked in with the same confident stride, looking around as if the cafe were his stage. He spotted her immediately, his eyes lighting up with recognition and curiosity. He moved toward a table near the center, clearly aware that she would see him. She approached him with her usual polite smile. "Good morning, sir. Welcome back. What can I get for you today?" He smiled slightly, leaning back in his chair. "I'm curious to see if today will be as impressive as yesterday," he said, almost teasingly. "Let's start with a simple coffee, black. Then, surprise me with something small to eat. Show me what you can do." She felt a spark of challenge in his words, but she kept her expression neutral. She nodded and left to prepare the order. In the kitchen, she paused for a moment. This wasn't just about serving food. It was an opportunity to show him, even in a small way, that she was more capable than he assumed. She moved with calm efficiency, preparing the coffee, selecting a pastry, and arranging it on a small plate with care. As she returned to his table, she carried the tray with both hands, careful not to spill anything. She placed the coffee and the pastry in front of him. "Here you go, sir. One black coffee and a small pastry I thought you might enjoy." He looked at the plate and then at her, his expression unreadable. He took a bite of the pastry and sipped the coffee, his eyes narrowing slightly as if assessing her skills silently. After a moment, he nodded approvingly. "Not bad at all. You have a knack for this. It's rare to see someone in your position handle things so smoothly." She nodded, acknowledging the compliment without letting it distract her. "Thank you, sir. I appreciate that." He watched her move away, serving other customers with the same attention and care. Something about her movements intrigued him. She didn't rush. She didn't fumble. Every action was deliberate, precise, and calm. He found himself observing more than he usually did, noticing small details. The way she adjusted her posture, the way her eyes scanned the room, the subtle way she carried herself when no one was watching closely. Later, during a quieter moment, he approached her again. "I have to admit, I didn't expect someone like you to be so composed. Most people in your position would crumble under the pressure, but you seem to thrive. How do you do it?" She smiled politely, choosing her words carefully. "I just focus on what I need to do and try to do it well. That's all." He raised an eyebrow, intrigued by the simplicity of her answer. It was clear she wasn't trying to impress him, yet she carried herself with confidence. He realized that he had underestimated her once again. His amusement was replaced by curiosity, a feeling he wasn't used to experiencing with someone so young and seemingly ordinary. Throughout the day, he remained a silent observer of her work. Occasionally, he would make small remarks, testing her reactions, but she met each one with calmness and grace. The cafe staff noticed the change in his demeanor as well. He was no longer openly mocking her, though a subtle challenge remained in his gaze. It was as if he wanted to see if her skill extended beyond simple politeness and efficiency. As the afternoon approached, a small crisis unfolded in the cafe. A young child spilled a drink on a nearby table, and the parent was momentarily distracted, trying to calm the child. Without hesitation, the waitress moved quickly, cleaning the spill efficiently while reassuring the child with a gentle tone. She handled the situation with such composure that even the parent seemed impressed. The wealthy man observed quietly, a faint smile appearing on his face. It was one thing to serve food well, he thought, but to handle unexpected situations calmly and skillfully revealed a depth he hadn't anticipated. He began to see that her hidden skill wasn't just about serving. It was about grace under pressure, a combination of patience, awareness, and quick thinking. Later, when the cafe became busier, she continued to manage her tasks effortlessly. She seemed to glide through the chaos, balancing trays, taking orders, and keeping customers satisfied without showing any sign of strain. Her focus was remarkable, and it was clear that she had developed this ability over time. The wealthy man, watching her, realized that he had been wrong to judge her based on first impressions. He was witnessing someone whose capabilities extended far beyond what he had imagined. As the day drew to a close, He approached her one last time before leaving. "You know," he said, his tone softer than before, "I think I might have misjudged you yesterday. Today, I've seen something in you that I didn't expect. You have a presence and a skill that's rare." She nodded politely, accepting the acknowledgement without arrogance. "Thank you, sir. That means a lot." He left the cafe, but unlike yesterday, he didn't leave with a smirk. Instead, he drove away with a thoughtful expression, reflecting on the way she had handled the day. He realized that true skill wasn't always loud or obvious. Sometimes, it was quiet, hidden, and revealed only through actions. He found himself curious about her, not in a superficial way, but genuinely interested in seeing what else she could do. Back in the cafe, she took a deep breath, feeling a mix of relief and anticipation. She knew that this was only the beginning. The wealthy man's attention had sparked something within her, a quiet determination to continue honing her skill, to prepare for the moments when it might be needed. She moved through the rest of her shift with calm efficiency, her mind focused not only on her work but also on the possibilities ahead. As the sun set outside, casting warm orange light across the cafe, she cleaned the counters and organized the tables. She glanced at the door, knowing that the next day might bring another encounter. But she was ready. Her hidden skill, the part of herself that few had seen, was waiting for the right moment to shine. She smiled softly, a sense of quiet confidence settling over her. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew she could handle them, and perhaps, one day soon, the world would see the full measure of her talent. The morning air was crisp, carrying the faint smell of autumn leaves from the street outside. Inside the cafe, the young waitress moved with her usual calm efficiency, preparing the tables and greeting the early customers with warmth. She had arrived a little earlier than usual, feeling a mixture of anticipation and quiet determination. Today, she sensed, might be a day that changed more than just her routine. As the cafe filled with the mid-morning crowd, she noticed him again, the wealthy man. He entered with the same confident stride, glancing around the cafe until his eyes met hers. There was something different in his expression this time. The teasing, mocking look she had seen before was replaced with curiosity, and perhaps a hint of respect. He chose a table near the back but kept his gaze on her, as if expecting something unexpected to happen. She approached his table with her usual polite smile. "Good morning, sir. Welcome back. What can I get for you today?" He leaned back, studying her carefully. "I think today I'd like to see more than just coffee and pastries. Show me something unique. Something that proves there's more to you than I realized." Her heart skipped a beat, but she didn't let it show. She nodded politely and moved toward the kitchen. Her co-workers glanced at each other, sensing that something unusual was about to unfold. She didn't speak a word, but in her mind, she went through the small ritual that prepared her for moments like this. This was her chance to reveal the skill she had nurtured in secret, the one no one in the cafe had yet seen. She prepared a small tray with elegance, choosing items not only for taste but for presentation. Every movement was precise, deliberate, and controlled. She arranged the pastries with careful symmetry and poured the coffee into a delicate cup, adding just a small flourish to the foam on top. It wasn't just a drink or a pastry. It was a small work of art, a demonstration of skill hidden beneath everyday tasks. As she walked toward his table, the cafe seemed to slow for a moment, her focus so complete that the background noise faded into a soft hum. She placed the tray in front of him and said, "I hope you enjoy this, sir. I've tried to make it a little different today." He raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. He picked up the cup, examining the intricate design in the foam, and then looked at the carefully arranged pastry. His usual critical expression softened into one of genuine amazement. "This is impressive," he said quietly, almost to himself. "I didn't expect this level of detail or care. You've hidden this well." She smiled faintly, keeping her composure. "Thank you, sir. I appreciate your kind words." Just as he began to speak again, a sudden commotion arose at the other end of the cafe. A customer had spilled a drink on the floor, slipping and knocking over a stack of cups. The scene could have caused panic or chaos, But she moved quickly, her hidden skill of precise coordination and calm problem-solving immediately coming into play. She cleaned the mess with efficiency and grace, reassured the customer with a gentle tone, and restored the table without a moment of hesitation. The wealthy man watched in silence, his eyes widening slightly as he realized the depth of her abilities. It wasn't just the artful coffee or the perfectly arranged pastries. It was her presence, her ability to handle sudden challenges with poise, to think quickly, and to act with precision. He had never seen such composure in someone so young, someone he had initially dismissed with a casual smirk. By mid-afternoon, the cafe was crowded, filled with the hum of conversation and the clatter of cups and plates. The young waitress moved through the space effortlessly, her actions almost choreographed in their fluidity. She served every customer with care, balanced every tray with skill, and kept a keen awareness of her surroundings. Even when a tray wobbled slightly, she caught it without drawing attention, preventing any mishap from disturbing the flow of service. The wealthy man observed quietly, now fully captivated. He realized that he had been blind to her true skill before, focusing only on superficial impressions. Today, he had witnessed a combination of talent, grace, and intelligence that couldn't be learned quickly. It was something rare, something innate, shaped over time with dedication and patience. As the day wore on, a particularly challenging situation arose. A customer requested a complicated order with multiple substitutions and dietary restrictions. Many would have struggled, but she handled it effortlessly. She remembered each modification, prepared the order correctly, and delivered it without error. The customer was delighted, praising her for her attentiveness and skill. The wealthy man leaned back in his chair, now completely silent, watching her with newfound respect. When the lunch rush finally subsided, he called her over one last time before leaving. "I have to admit," he said, his voice softer than before, "I was wrong about you. I underestimated you, and I see now that there's a level of talent and skill here that I didn't expect. You've handled every challenge with grace and precision. It's remarkable." She nodded politely, accepting the praise without arrogance. "Thank you, sir. That means a lot." He stood, leaving a generous tip, and for a moment, lingered at the door. "I hope I get to see more of this in the future," he said, a genuine curiosity in his tone. Then he left, his presence lingering in the cafe like a shadow that had taught a quiet lesson. Back behind the counter, she allowed herself a small exhale, a mix of relief and satisfaction. Today had been more than just another day at work. It had been a moment of revelation, not just for him, but for herself as well. Her hidden skill, long practiced in secret, had finally been recognized, and in doing so, it had shifted the perception of someone who had once mocked her. Her co-workers watched her with quiet admiration, though none spoke of it aloud. They had seen her handle countless difficult situations before, but today, the wealthy man's reaction highlighted what they already knew. She was extraordinary. She continued her work, carrying trays, serving customers, and organizing the cafe with calm efficiency. But inside, a quiet confidence had grown stronger. The day had proven that talent, when nurtured with patience and dedication, would reveal itself when the time was right. As evening approached and the cafe began to empty, she wiped down the counters and arranged the remaining pastries with care. She glanced out the window at the setting sun, warm orange light spilling across the street. The thought of tomorrow, of what might come next, filled her with anticipation rather than anxiety. She knew that her hidden skill had made an impression, and she was ready for whatever challenges awaited her. She took a deep breath and smiled softly to herself. Today had been more than just a day at work. It had been a small triumph, a quiet victory that reminded her of her own strength. And she knew that her journey was only beginning. The world, as she had discovered, often underestimated those who carried their abilities quietly. But when revealed, those abilities could astonish even the most skeptical observers. The morning sun cast soft light into the cafe, reflecting off the polished counters and warming the space in a golden hue. The young waitress moved through the cafe with the same calm efficiency she always did, arranging trays, greeting customers, and keeping a keen awareness of every small detail around her. Today, there was a subtle shift in the air, a quiet anticipation that had settled over her since yesterday. She knew the wealthy man might return, and she was prepared, not with anxiety, but with calm confidence. As expected, he arrived mid-morning, entering the cafe with the same confident stride. He didn't carry the teasing tone of his first visit, nor the cautious curiosity of the second. There was something different in his expression, something softer, more reflective. He chose a table near the window, giving him a clear view of her work as she moved about the cafe. He watched quietly as she balanced trays, organized tables, and interacted with customers with her usual warmth and poise. When she approached him, she greeted him politely. "Good morning, sir. Welcome back. What would you like today?" He looked up from his menu and smiled faintly. "I just want to observe today. I've realized that I underestimated you before, and I want to see how you handle things when the cafe is busy, when it's challenging. I want to understand what makes you different." She nodded politely, keeping her composure. "Thank you, sir. I'll do my best." As the morning progressed, the cafe filled with customers. Orders came in quickly, and the staff moved efficiently, but she noticed a few complex situations that required her attention. A customer requested multiple substitutions, another spilled a drink, and a third asked for a combination of items that weren't on the menu. She handled each situation with grace, solving problems without letting the stress show, keeping the cafe running smoothly. Each action seemed effortless, yet it was a combination of skill, awareness, and patience honed over years. The wealthy man observed her silently, his expression thoughtful. He had entered the cafe thinking he could see through her, expecting small errors, nervous hesitations, or a falter under pressure. What he saw instead was someone composed, capable, and quietly confident. He began to reflect on his own behavior, on the arrogance that had led him to mock her on his first visit. He realized that judging someone by appearance or position had been a mistake, one that humbled him in a way he hadn't anticipated. At one point, a particularly challenging situation arose. A child knocked over a chair, causing a small commotion, while a customer accidentally tipped a tray of drinks. She moved quickly to manage both incidents simultaneously, calming the child and cleaning up the spills with remarkable efficiency. The wealthy man's eyes widened slightly as he saw her handle the chaos without panic, her actions precise and thoughtful. It was in these moments that her true strength became apparent, not in the routine tasks, but in her ability to manage the unexpected gracefully. After the rush subsided, he called her over, his tone unusually soft. "I want to apologize for my behavior when I first came here. I mocked you, assuming you would be intimidated or clumsy. But I was wrong. Today I've seen something remarkable. You have a talent, yes, but more importantly, you have patience, focus, and grace. I admire that." She accepted the apology with dignity. "Thank you, sir. I appreciate your words. I've learned that people sometimes judge too quickly, but that doesn't change who I am or what I do." His gaze lingered on her for a moment, a mix of curiosity and respect evident in his eyes. He realized that his own behavior reflected more on him than on anyone else. He had allowed arrogance and pride to guide his actions, failing to see the worth and capability of someone he had deemed beneath notice. This realization was unsettling but also enlightening. He had a chance to change, to observe and support rather than judge, and he felt the weight of that opportunity. As the day continued, he remained in the cafe, quietly observing. He noticed the subtle ways she interacted with customers, how she anticipated needs before they were spoken, how she balanced tasks seamlessly, and how her demeanor inspired confidence in those around her. It was a lesson he hadn't expected to learn from someone in her position, a reminder that character and skill were often hidden beneath the surface, revealed only through patience and careful attention. By afternoon, he felt compelled to engage her again. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "I've encountered many people in my life, but few have left an impression like you have. It's not just the skill you demonstrate. It's your composure, your kindness, and your ability to stay calm under pressure. I realize now that I need to change how I see people and how I treat them." I should have respected you from the start." She listened quietly, nodding in understanding. "It's never too late to see the truth," she said softly. "We all have moments where we misjudge others, but what matters is how we respond once we realize it." He looked at her, a rare humility in his expression. For a moment, the confident, mocking man he had been seemed to fade, replaced by someone reflective, someone willing to acknowledge his mistakes and grow. He realized that encounters like these, unexpected and unplanned, had the power to change perspectives, to teach lessons about humility, respect, and appreciation. Throughout the rest of the day, he observed her work with renewed attention. He saw how she interacted with her colleagues, offering small words of encouragement, sharing tips when needed, and maintaining a calm, supportive presence. He noticed how she managed time, how she prioritized tasks, and how she remained poised even when the cafe became chaotic. Each observation reinforced his growing respect for her, and with each passing moment, he felt a subtle change in himself. As the cafe began to quiet down in the late afternoon, he stood and approached her one last time. "I want to thank you," he said sincerely, "not just for your skill, but for teaching me a quiet lesson about humility and respect. I've learned more today from watching you than I have from anyone else in a long time." She smiled faintly, her eyes calm and steady. "I'm glad, sir. It's important to see people for who they are, beyond assumptions." He nodded, leaving a generous tip and turning toward the door. For the first time, he left without a smirk, without a challenge, without a hint of arrogance. Instead, he walked away thoughtful, reflective, and changed in a subtle but meaningful way. Behind the counter, she took a deep breath, feeling a quiet satisfaction. Today had not only revealed her hidden skill to someone who had once mocked her, but it had also demonstrated the power of patience, dignity, and quiet confidence. She knew that people would continue to judge, to test, and to challenge, but she was prepared. Her skill and her character were resilient, and she had seen firsthand how they could shift perceptions and even inspire change. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the cafe, she cleaned the counters, organized the trays, and reflected on the day. Her hidden skill, combined with her composure and kindness, had made an impact far beyond the tasks she performed. She understood that the world often underestimated people, but those who remained true to themselves and patient with their talents could astonish even the most skeptical observers. Today had been a lesson for both of them, and she felt a quiet sense of accomplishment, ready for whatever the next day might bring. The cafe had a quiet, steady rhythm as the morning sunlight filtered in, touching the polished counters and reflecting softly off the cups and trays. The young waitress moved among the tables with her usual calm, attentive presence. She carried trays smoothly, greeted customers warmly, and kept a careful eye on the kitchen and the dining area. Her day was beginning like any other, but she felt a subtle excitement. Over the past days, she had seen small changes in the world around her, especially in the way certain people reacted to her skills and composure. Today felt different, like something new was about to unfold. The wealthy man arrived again, his presence unmistakable. He walked in with quiet confidence, not with the arrogance he had shown at first, nor the curious observation of the previous days. There was a softer edge to his expression, a reflective quality that suggested he had been thinking. He chose a table where he could observe without intruding, and as usual, she approached him with her polite greeting. "Good morning, sir. Welcome back. What can I get for you today?" He smiled faintly. "I don't need anything complicated. I just want to see your day. I want to observe the work you do, the way you handle everything. It's been enlightening to watch these past days." She nodded calmly. "Thank you, sir. I'll do my best." Throughout the morning, the cafe filled steadily. The young waitress moved with grace, carrying trays and managing the busy space with attention and care. Customers came and went, some regulars chatting easily, others placing more complicated orders. She managed everything with ease, never showing strain or hesitation. The wealthy man watched in silence, noting not just her skill, but her demeanor. The way she treated people kindly, encouraged her coworkers, and handled unexpected challenges with composure. At one point, a small situation arose. A customer accidentally spilled a drink, startling a child nearby. Without hesitation, the waitress moved quickly, cleaning the mess and calming the child with a gentle tone. She rearranged the table, replaced the spilled items, and returned everything to order, all while maintaining a warm, reassuring smile. The wealthy man observed quietly, realizing again how extraordinary she was. Her skill wasn't just in serving food or coffee. It was in managing people, space, and unforeseen circumstances with calm intelligence and poise. As the day progressed, he finally spoke. "I've been thinking a lot about my behavior when I first came here. I mocked you, expecting weakness or error. But what I see now is strength, skill, and a quiet confidence I didn't expect. You've handled challenges gracefully and impressed me beyond anything I could have imagined." She listened politely, acknowledging his words without showing arrogance. "Thank you, sir. I've learned that people often judge too quickly, but what matters is how we act and respond. Everyone has strengths, sometimes hidden, that are revealed over time." He nodded, reflecting on his own previous assumptions. He had judged her based on appearance and circumstance, believing he held the upper hand. Now, he understood that true talent and character were not always visible, and that humility and observation often revealed the deeper truths about a person. He felt a subtle change in himself, a recognition that respect and appreciation could replace arrogance and judgment. During the afternoon, word spread quietly among the cafe staff and a few regular customers that the young waitress was unusually skilled, handling challenges smoothly and consistently exceeding expectations. Her hidden talent, though still private in some ways, was evident in the way she worked. She balanced trays with care, anticipated needs before they were asked, and interacted with people in a way that inspired confidence. The wealthy man watched quietly, occasionally exchanging a glance of recognition with her, acknowledging the growth and excellence she displayed. Later in the day, the cafe hosted a small event. A local artist had asked to display some works temporarily. The young waitress assisted in arranging the space, making sure everything was visually appealing, accessible, and welcoming. She moved with precision, combining creativity with practical skill. The wealthy man, now observing with full appreciation, realized that her talent extended beyond the immediate tasks of serving. It was a combination of intelligence, observation, and artistry. She had a natural ability to manage and enhance the environment around her, to anticipate needs and make everything smoother, more enjoyable. As the event continued, he approached her quietly. "I've realized something important watching you these past days. It's not just the tasks you perform that impress me, but the way you approach them, the thought, the care, and the skill behind every action. You've taught me a lesson about humility and respect that I didn't know I needed." She responded with a soft smile. "I'm glad, sir. Everyone has lessons to teach, even in unexpected ways. What matters is noticing them and applying what you learn." He nodded, leaving her with a quiet look of acknowledgement. He left the cafe later that evening, but differently than before. There was no smirk, no teasing, no arrogance. Instead, he carried a sense of understanding and respect. Her skill and composure had not only impressed him but had quietly influenced him to reflect on his own behavior and assumptions. Back in the cafe, she continued her work, assisting customers, arranging the tables, and preparing for the evening crowd. She felt a sense of accomplishment and quiet satisfaction. Today had been more than just a normal day at work. It had been a moment that demonstrated the impact of patience, skill, and dignity. Her hidden talent, once unnoticed and underestimated, had made a significant impression, showing that abilities nurtured quietly could astonish even those who initially doubted them. As the sun set, casting warm hues across the cafe, she took a moment to look around. Customers were enjoying their time, the staff worked smoothly, and the atmosphere was calm and welcoming. She felt a sense of readiness for the future, knowing that her skill and composure could handle whatever challenges came her way. The experiences of the past days had shown her that true talent was often hidden, but when revealed, it had the power to change perceptions and inspire respect. Closing time arrived, and she cleaned the counters, arranged the remaining items neatly, and took a final look around the cafe. Her hidden talent, combined with her steady composure and thoughtful attention, had not only impressed the wealthy man but had subtly influenced the environment and people around her. She smiled softly, understanding that patience, skill, and quiet confidence were as powerful as any outward show of strength. Today had been a testament to that truth. She left the cafe that evening feeling a deep sense of satisfaction and quiet pride. Her journey was ongoing, but she knew that her skills and the calm confidence she carried had made a lasting impact. Those who had underestimated her, particularly the wealthy man who had mocked her at first, now saw her in a new light. The world often judged too quickly, but she had learned that perseverance, dignity, and the careful nurturing of hidden talents could astonish even the most skeptical observers. Walking home, she reflected on the past few days. The encounters, the challenges, and the moments where her skill had shown quietly in the background were all part of a larger journey. She understood that recognition, respect, and influence were not always immediate, but patience and consistency would reveal them in time. Her hidden talent had not only served her in practical ways but had taught lessons to those who observed her, demonstrating the quiet power of excellence and composure. As night fell, she looked forward to the future with calm confidence. Her talent remained her own, cultivated in quiet moments and revealed with grace. The wealthy man's reaction had shown her that perceptions could change, that respect could be earned through action, and that true skill always carried weight, whether noticed immediately or discovered over time. The day had ended, but the impact of her talent, patience, and dignity would continue to resonate, inspiring those who paid attention and reminding her of the strength she carried quietly within herself.